In the golden haze of a Tennessee summer, Amelia Hayes knelt in a field of tomatoes, her hands stained with earth. At 22, she knew every inch of this farm, where the air smelled of hay and the crickets sang at dusk. Her mother, Sarah Hayes, worked beside her, a former diner waitress whose laugh could light up the gloomiest day. Together, they tended their small plot, a haven from the world's troubles. But today, Sarah's face was tight with worry. She set down her basket and took Amelia's hand. Richard Dalton, Amelia's father, had called. A man she barely knew. Richard lived in New York City, a world away from their rural life. He wanted Amelia to join his wealthy family, to claim her place as his daughter. Amelia scoffed, her brown eyes flashing. She had no use for a father who had ignored her for years, a man who saw her as a stain on his perfect life. Sarah's voice trembled as she explained. Richard's business was crumbling, and he owed money to dangerous people. He needed Amelia to marry William Prescott, a New York CEO, to secure a deal that would save him. If she refused, Sarah would pay the price. Amelia's heart sank. She pictured her mother's warm hugs, the way Sarah sang off-key while cooking supper. She could not let her suffer. With a lump in her throat, Amelia agreed, promising to protect Sarah no matter the cost. That night she packed a small bag, her fingers lingering on a photo of them at the county fair, laughing over cotton candy. The bus to New York felt like a one-way ticket to a stranger's life. Far from Tennessee's fields, New York City glittered with promise and peril. William Prescott, 30, stood in his Manhattan penthouse, gazing at the skyline. As CEO of Prescott Industries, he commanded boardrooms with a sharp mind and a guarded heart. 3 years ago, a car accident had left him injured, and though he had nearly recovered, he kept it secret, using a cane to mislead those plotting against him. William had no desire for marriage, but his grandfather's old promise to Richard Dalton bound him. Richard had once saved the Prescott family from ruin, and now William had to repay the debt by marrying his daughter. It was a business deal, nothing more. He planned to divorce her quietly, keeping his focus on uncovering the enemies within his company. Amelia's bus rolled into the city at dawn, and she stepped onto the pavement, her sneakers out of place among polished heels. Skyscrapers loomed like giants, and the noise of taxis and chatter drowned out her thoughts. She clutched her bag, feeling small but determined. Richard had sent a driver to fetch her, a grim man who said little. As they sped toward William's world, Amelia thought of Sarah, trapped by Richard's schemes. She vowed to play along, to find a way to free her mother. The penthouse awaited, a cage of glass and steel, and with it, a man who held her future in his hands. William, watching from his window, saw the car approach. He expected a spoiled heiress, not a girl from a farm. Their worlds were about to collide, and neither knew how deeply it would change them. Amelia Hayes stood in the marble foyer of William Prescott's Manhattan penthouse, her worn sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. The space was a world apart from her Tennessee farm, with chandeliers casting light on sleek furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows framing New York's skyline. At 22, she felt like an intruder, her denim jacket out of place among the staff's crisp uniforms. William descended the staircase leaning lightly on a cane, his dark eyes assessing her. He was 30, handsome in a tailored suit, but his expression was cold, as if she were a contract to be signed. Amelia squared her shoulders, refusing to flinch. She had come to save her mother, Sarah, and no city billionaire would intimidate her. William, expecting a polished heiress, raised an eyebrow at her frayed jeans. Their wedding was set for tomorrow, a rushed affair to seal the deal with Richard Dalton, Amelia's father. Neither wanted this, but both had their reasons. The wedding unfolded in a rooftop garden, where Manhattan's elite sipped champagne under string lights. Amelia, in a borrowed white dress, felt like a prop in Richard's scheme. She ignored the catered delicacies, grabbing a plate of BBQ ribs from a side table. Sauce smeared her fingers as she ate with gusto, drawing gasps from guests accustomed to dainty bites. William, watching from across the room, stifled a smile. Her unapologetic joy was a stark contrast to the calculated world he knew. He approached, offering a napkin. "You're not what I expected," he said, his voice low. Amelia grinned, wiping her hands. "Good, keeps things interesting." The moment lingered, a spark in the air. But Richard's glare from the crowd reminded her of the stakes. She had to play along to protect Sarah. Life in the penthouse was a delicate dance. Amelia navigated its rules with a mix of defiance and curiosity, swapping forks and knives at dinner and earning a chuckle from William. "You're supposed to cut with the right," he said, but his tone was more amused than critical. Amelia shrugged, slicing her steak with her left hand. "Feels better this way." William let it slide, intrigued by her refusal to conform. He was kinder than she expected, but she sensed he was hiding something. One evening she caught him walking without his cane, his strides confident. Confronting him in the study, she demanded answers. William sighed, closing the door. "The accident 3 years ago was real, but I'm almost healed. I keep it secret to flush out who's plotting against me." His honesty surprised her, and she shared her own truth. Richard was holding Sarah hostage to ensure her compliance. William's jaw tightened. "We'll find her," he promised, and for the first time, Amelia felt a flicker of trust. Their fragile alliance grew through small moments. Amelia cooked cornbread in the penthouse's sterile kitchen, the smell of butter and cornmeal filling the air. William, lured by the aroma, took a bite and grimaced at her teasing. "You city boys can't handle real food," she said, laughing as he reached for his espresso. He countered, mocking her love for sweet tea. These exchanges softened the edges of their arrangement, but tensions simmered outside their walls. Richard summoned Amelia to his downtown office, his face gaunt with desperation. His business was bleeding money, and he needed her to steal William's merger plans. "Refuse, and Sarah suffers," he hissed. Amelia's stomach churned, but she nodded, hiding her resolve to outsmart him. Back at the penthouse, Brittany Dalton, Richard's 24-year-old daughter, cornered her. Brittany, with her designer heels and sharp tongue, despised Amelia's new status. "You're just a hick plain dress-up," she sneered at a charity gala, her words cutting through the crowd. Amelia bit back a retort, but Brittany's jealousy was a storm waiting to break. Trouble deepened with the arrival of Jessica Monroe, a sleek 30-year-old who claimed she pulled William from the wreckage of his accident. William invited her to stay at the penthouse, grateful for her supposed heroism. Jessica's charm was polished, her stories of saving William detailed and convincing, but her glances at Amelia were calculating, and she began whispering to guests about a past romance with William. Amelia's chest tightened with doubt. At a cocktail party, Jessica leaned close to William, her hand on his arm, while Amelia watched from across the room. She told herself it was just business, that their marriage was a sham, but the sting was real. Later, alone in her room, she stared at her reflection, wondering if she was foolish to care. William knocked, sensing her unease. "Nothing happened with Jessica," he said firmly. "I don't know why she's here, but I'll find out." His sincerity eased her fears, and she nodded, their eyes locking in a moment of unspoken connection. The city's pulse never slowed, but Amelia found solace in its quieter corners. One evening, William suggested a break from the penthouse's formality. They ended up at a Central Park food truck, the smell of hot dogs and pretzels mingling with autumn air. Amelia ordered a chili dog, sauce dripping as she took a messy bite. William laughed, a rare, unguarded sound, and snapped a photo with his phone. "You're a disaster," he said, but his smile betrayed affection. Amelia grinned, stealing a fry from his plate. "Takes one to know one." For a moment, they were not a CEO and a farm girl, just two people sharing a laugh, but the illusion shattered when Amelia returned to find a voicemail from Richard. "Sarah's time is running out," he warned. "Get me those plans, or she's gone." Amelia's hands shook, but she deleted the message, determined to protect Sarah without betraying William. Brittany's resentment boiled over at the next gala, a glittering affair at a Manhattan hotel, Dressed in a gown that felt like a costume, Amelia navigated the crowd, her nerves frayed. Brittany, emboldened by champagne, confronted her near the dessert table. "You stole my life," she spat, her voice loud enough to draw stares. "You're nothing but a bastard who tricked her way in." Amelia's temper flared. "I didn't ask for this," she shot back, "but I'm not your punching bag." William, overhearing, stepped between them, his voice icy. "Enough, Brittany. She's my wife." The word wife hit Amelia like a jolt, and Brittany stormed off, her face a mask of fury. Later, in the penthouse's quiet library, William found Amelia staring out at the city. "You didn't have to do that," she said softly. He shrugged, his hand brushing hers. "Nobody hurts you on my watch." The touch lingered, a promise neither dared to name. Unknown to them, a deeper threat was brewing. Jessica slipped into a dimly lit bar downtown, meeting Brandon Prescott, William's cousin. At 32, Brandon had the Prescott name but none of William's success. His eyes burned with envy as he outlined their plan. "We frame William for embezzlement," Jessica murmured, sliding him a USB drive with forged documents. "The art gallery's accounts are perfect for it." Brandon nodded, his ambition outweighing his loyalty. "If William falls, Prescott Industries is mine." Their words were a ticking clock, one Amelia and William would soon hear. Back at the penthouse, Amelia found a note slipped under her door, unsigned but chilling. "Watch your back. Someone close is lying." Her heart raced, but she tucked it away, vowing to stay sharp. She and William were bound by necessity, but something deeper was taking root, a bond that could either save them or break them. Amelia Hayes could not shake the unease that clung to her like city smog. The anonymous note warning of a liar in William Prescott's penthouse had set her on edge, and now, every glance from Jessica Monroe felt like a blade. At 22, Amelia was no stranger to hardship, but New York's glittering world was a maze of deception, far from the open fields of her Tennessee home. She stood in the penthouse's kitchen, stirring a pot of chili, the familiar task grounding her. William entered, drawn by the spicy aroma, his usual suit traded for a sweater. He leaned against the counter, watching her work. "You cook when you're nervous," he said, his voice gentle. Amelia met his eyes, those dark pools that saw too much. "Someone's playing games," she admitted, showing him the note. William's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "We'll figure it out together." His words were a lifeline, and Amelia clung to them, her heart torn between fear for her mother, Sarah, and a growing warmth for the man she was supposed to leave behind. Their alliance deepened, but danger lurked closer than they knew. Late one night, Amelia overheard Jessica in the penthouse's guest suite, her voice low on a phone call. "The gallery's accounts are clean," she whispered. "We pinned the theft on William, and Brandon takes the company." Amelia's pulse raced. Brandon Prescott, William's cousin, was no friend, his envy plain at every family gathering. She slipped away, finding William in his study, poring over financial reports. She recounted Jessica's words, her voice steady despite her fear. William's face darkened, but he pulled her into a chair beside him. "Brandon's wanted my place since we were kids," he said. "He used my grandmother's art gallery to move money, thinking I wouldn't notice." Amelia frowned. "Why her gallery?" William sighed, his fingers tracing the desk. "Eleanor blames me for my parents' death in the accident. She's distant, easy to manipulate." Amelia touched his hand, a quiet promise. "We'll stop him." To trap Brandon, they devised a plan, stage a public riff to lure him into overconfidence. At a Prescott Industries fundraiser, Amelia played her part, snapping at William over a spilt drink. "You think I belong here?" she said loudly, drawing eyes. "I'm just your charity case." William's face was a mask of hurt, but his eyes signaled trust. "Keep going," they said. Jessica watched, a smirk tugging her lips, believing the marriage was crumbling. Later, Amelia slipped into the gala's back office, hacking into Jessica's laptop with a password William had guessed. She found emails detailing forged documents linking William to fake embezzlement. Her hands shook as she copied the files, but a noise made her freeze. Jessica stood in the doorway, her smile cold. "You're smarter than you look, farm girl," she said. "But you're in over your head." Amelia stood tall, clutching the USB drive. "Try me," she said, and bolted, her heart pounding as she reached William's side. The city's drama was nothing compared to the storm brewing with Amelia's family. Richard Dalton, her father, had kept Sarah hidden in a rundown Brooklyn apartment, a bargaining chip to control Amelia. Brittany Dalton, Richard's favored daughter, seethed with jealousy, her life unraveling as Amelia gained William's protection. Brittany tracked Sarah down, confronting her in the cramped apartment. "You're the reason my mother left," Brittany screamed, her voice raw. Sarah, frail from weeks of confinement, tried to calm her. "I never meant to hurt anyone," she said, but Brittany's rage blinded her. In a reckless shove, Brittany knocked Sarah against a table, the older woman collapsing with a cry. Brittany froze, panic overtaking her as she called an ambulance, fleeing before it arrived. Sarah was rushed to a hospital, her condition critical, a head injury stealing her strength. Amelia learned of the accident from a frantic call, her world tilting. She raced to the hospital, William at her side, his hand steadying her trembling one. In the sterile ICU, Sarah lay pale, tubes snaking from her arms. Amelia choked back sobs, whispering apologies for dragging her mother into Richard's schemes. William knelt beside her, his voice low. "This isn't your fault. We'll get justice." His promise anchored her, but guilt. She should have freed Sarah sooner. William shared his own burden, his voice rough. "Eleanor thinks I caused the accident that killed my parents. I was a kid, but she's never forgiven me." Amelia squeezed his hand, their shared pain a silent vow. They would face their enemies together, no matter the cost. Eleanor Prescott, William's grandmother, was a formidable figure, her art gallery a cornerstone of New York's cultural elite. Amelia visited her, seeking an ally. The gallery's walls gleamed with paintings, but Eleanor's eyes were cold. "You're not one of us," she said, dismissing Amelia's plea for help. Undeterred, Amelia noticed a photo of Eleanor's garden, wilted and neglected. "Let me fix it," she offered, her Tennessee roots guiding her. She spent hours pruning and planting, her hands in the soil as Eleanor watched. Memories of Sarah's garden spilled out, and Eleanor softened, her voice wistful. "You remind me of my daughter," she said, a crack in her armor. Amelia saw a chance, planting seeds of trust that might sway Eleanor against Brandon's lies. The blow came without warning. Sarah's condition worsened, her body too weak to fight. Doctors revealed she had been neglected during captivity, her heart failing under the strain. Amelia sat by her bedside, holding her mother's hand as the monitors flatlined. Sarah was gone, her warmth stolen by Richard's cruelty. Amelia's world shattered, tears soaking her sleeves as she whispered, "I'm sorry, Mama." William pulled her close, his own eyes wet, and vowed to make Richard pay. In a raw confrontation at Richard's office, Amelia faced her father, her voice breaking. "Why do you hate us?" she demanded. Richard's face twisted. "Sarah was a waitress who trapped me," he spat. "You're her mistake, ruining my life." Amelia recoiled, but her grief fueled her resolve. "You're the mistake," she said, walking away, her mother's love her only anchor. William's support was a beacon in the dark. He took Amelia to a quiet diner, a nod to Sarah's past, and ordered her favorite pie. "You're not alone," he said, his hand covering hers. Amelia nodded, her heart aching but no longer empty. Their bond had grown beyond necessity, rooted in shared loss and defiance. But Jessica's schemes escalated, leaking the forged documents to the press, painting William as a thief. Headlines screamed of scandal, threatening Prescott Industries. Amelia found William in his study, his face haggard. "They're closing in," he said, "but I won't let them win." Amelia handed him the USB drive, her voice firm. "We fight back, together." Their eyes met, a spark of something deeper igniting. They were no longer just partners in a deal. They were a team, bound by trust and a love neither dared name. Brandon's ambition grew bolder, his meetings with Jessica more frequent. In a shadowed Manhattan bar, they plotted their endgame. "Once William's disgraced, the board will vote him out," Brandon said, swirling his drink. Jessica nodded, but her confidence wavered. "Amelia's not as naive as we thought," she warned. Brandon smirked. "She's a nobody. Let her try to stop us." Their arrogance was their blind spot, and Amelia was ready to exploit it. She and William planned their next move, a risky gambit to expose Brandon's lies. But Amelia's grief for Sarah lingered, a weight she carried into every fight. She thought of her mother's smile, her strength, and vowed to honor her by surviving this war. With William by her side, she felt a flicker of hope, a chance to build something new from the ashes of her loss. Amelia Hayes stood in the shadow of Prescott Industries Gala, her heart pounding like a drum. The Manhattan ballroom glittered with crystal and ambition, but tonight, it was a battlefield. At 22, she had lost her mother, Sarah, to Richard Dalton's cruelty, and now she and William Prescott were poised to unmask the true enemy, Brandon Prescott, William's cousin. The forged documents Jessica Monroe had leaked to the press painted William as an embezzler, threatening to topple his company. But Amelia clutched a USB drive in her pocket, proof of Brandon's betrayal, and William's steady gaze across the room gave her courage. They had staged fights and played their rules, all to lure Brandon into a trap. Tonight, the truth would set them free or break them apart. William took the stage, his voice commanding as he addressed the board and guests. "Rumors have questioned my leadership," he said, "but I'm here to clear my name." Amelia slipped to the back, connecting the USB to a projector. As William spoke, she cued the evidence. Emails, bank records, and a recorded confession from the driver of the accident that killed William's parents. The screen lit up, revealing Brandon's scheme to funnel money through Eleanor Prescott's art gallery, framing William for theft. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Brandon's voice echoed, admitting he'd bribed the driver to crash William's car, hoping to claim Prescott Industries. Brandon, seated near the front, leapt to his feet, his face pale. "Lies!" he shouted. But the driver, now in protective custody, appeared on a live feed, detailing Brandon's payments. The room turned on Brandon, his allies shrinking back. Eleanor, regal in a silver gown, rose from her seat, her eyes blazing. She had trusted Brandon, her grandson, but the truth cut deep. "You used my gallery, my name, to destroy your cousin?" she demanded. Brandon stammered, blaming William's success. "You got everything," he spat. "I'm a Prescott, too." Eleanor's voice was steel. "You're no Prescott, you're a coward." She turned to William, tears glistening. "I blamed you for your parents' death, and I was wrong. Forgive me." William nodded, his throat tight, and Amelia felt a pang of hope. Eleanor's apology was a bridge rebuilt, a family mending its cracks. Brandon's mother, complicit in his schemes, shrank in shame as security escorted Brandon out. His dreams of power shattered. The gala's aftermath brought justice to others. Richard Dalton's arrest came swiftly, his neglect of Sarah exposed by hospital records and Amelia's testimony. He faced charges for manslaughter, his business empire collapsing under the weight of his debts. Brittany Dalton, Richard's daughter, stood trial for injuring Sarah, her reckless shove the spark of tragedy. In a quiet courtroom moment, Brittany met Amelia's eyes, her face etched with regret. "I was wrong," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I can't undo it, but I'm sorry." Amelia nodded, her heart heavy but open to healing. Brittany's remorse was a small light in the darkness, a chance for redemption in time. Amelia had lost her mother, but she would not lose herself to hate. The city's chaos faded as Amelia grappled with her grief. She stood on the penthouse balcony, staring at New York's endless lights, her mother's absence a wound that would never fully heal. William found her, his presence a quiet strength. "You don't have to stay," she said, her voice small. "This was never your fight." William took her hand, his touch warm. "You are my fight, Amelia. I love you." The words hit like sunlight, banishing the shadows. Amelia's breath caught, and she stepped into his arms, their kiss a promise under the city sky. It was not the marriage they had planned, but it was the love they had chosen, built on trust and shared scars. Weeks later, Amelia and William traveled to Tennessee, the air thick with the scent of earth and memory. They knelt at Sarah's grave, a simple stone in a field of wildflowers. Amelia planted daisies, her mother's favorite, her fingers tracing the soil as tears fell. William wrapped an arm around her, his silence a comfort. Eleanor joined them, her presence unexpected but welcome. She handed Amelia a sketch, a delicate drawing of a family under a Tennessee sky, William and Amelia at its heart. "You're one of us now," Eleanor said, her voice soft. Amelia smiled, her heart full despite the ache. The Prescotts were her family, not by blood but by choice, a bond forged in pain and love. Back in New York, Amelia and William rebuilt their lives. Prescott Industries thrived under William's steady hand, and Amelia found her place, volunteering at a community garden that brought Tennessee's warmth to the city. They walked hand in hand through Central Park, the noise of the world fading. Amelia thought of Sarah's laughter, her strength, and knew she carried it forward. William glanced at her, his smile a mirror of her own. "We made it," he said, and she nodded, her heart steady. Their love was not a fairy tale, but it was real, a flame that burned brighter for the storms it had weathered. Amelia's journey had begun with a forced vow, a deal to save her mother. She had faced betrayal, loss, and a city that tried to break her, but she had found William, a man who saw her for who she was, not where she came from. Together they had toppled their enemies and built a home in each other's hearts. As they stood by Sarah's grave, the wildflowers swaying in the breeze, Amelia knew her mother's love lived on in her. She was no longer just a small-town girl. She was a woman who had fought for her truth and won. And with William by her side, she faced the future unafraid, her heart open to whatever came next. Amelia Hayes's story began in the dusty fields of Tennessee, where the sun painted the world gold and her mother's love was her only compass. At 22, she was thrust into New York City's glittering maze, a small-town girl bound by a forced marriage to William Prescott, a CEO with secrets of his own. Their journey was no fairy tale, but a tapestry of heartbreak and triumph, woven with betrayal, loss, and a love that defied the odds. Amelia's unfiltered heart, shining in moments like devouring BBQ ribs or planting wildflowers at her mother's grave, won William's guarded soul. Together, they faced Richard Dalton's cruelty, Brittany Dalton's jealousy, and Brandon Prescott's schemes. Emerging stronger, their bond a testament to the power of truth. As they stood hand in hand from Manhattan's bustling streets to Tennessee's quiet earth, their story whispered a timeless truth. Love is not found in flawless moments, but in the courage to be real. Reflecting on Amelia's path, we see a young woman who refused to let her roots define her limits. She walked into a penthouse with sneakers and a stubborn spirit, never pretending to be anything but herself. Her cornbread in a sterile kitchen, her laughter over a messy hot dog in Central Park, her tears at Sarah's bedside. These were the threads that tied her to William. He, too, shed his armor, revealing a man haunted by guilt yet brave enough to love again. Their enemies, from Brandon's envious plots to Jessica Monroe's calculated lies, crumbled because they underestimated the strength of authenticity. Amelia's Tennessee heart brought warmth to New York's cold edges, reminding us that home is not a place, but the people who see us truly. Eleanor Prescott's journey mirrored this truth. A woman hardened by grief, she blamed William for a tragedy he could not control. Yet Amelia's kindness, her hands in the soil of Eleanor's garden, softened those wounds. Eleanor's apology at the gala, her sketch of a new family, showed that love can rebuild even the most broken bonds. Brittany's remorse, though late, offered a flicker of hope, a chance for healing beyond the story's end. And Sarah, though lost, lived on in Amelia's resilience, her memory a light that guided every step. These threads of family, chosen and reclaimed, remind us that love is a choice, a commitment to stand by those who matter, no matter the cost. The story's heart lies in its celebration of being unapologetically yourself. Amelia never bowed to Manhattan's expectations, her honesty a beacon that drew William's love. William, in turn, found freedom in vulnerability, his confession under city lights a leap of faith. Their love was not perfect, but it was true, forged in shared pain and unwavering trust. This truth speaks to us all, whether we're navigating city streets or country roads. True love blooms not in perfection, but in the courage to be unapologetically yourself. Amelia and William's story asks us to embrace our own truths, to love boldly, to find strength in our scars. Now, dear listeners, it's your turn to share. What moment in Amelia and William's journey stirred your heart? Was it their laughter in Central Park, their stand against Brandon's lies, or the quiet moment at Sarah's grave? Have you ever found love by being your true self, unpolished and real? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's weave a tapestry of stories together. Maybe you faced your own battles, like Amelia, or found a partner who sees you as William did. Your words could inspire someone watching, just as this story has touched you. If Amelia and William's tale moved you, give this video a like and share it with someone who needs a reminder of love's power. Subscribe to join our storytelling family, where we dive into heartfelt tales that make you laugh, cry, and dream. Check out our playlist of heartfelt love stories you'll cry over for more journeys like this one. Every click, every comment keeps these stories alive, connecting us across miles and moments. Thank you for being here, for listening, for feeling. Let's keep telling stories that remind us what it means to love, to fight, to be human. Until next time, hold your loved ones close and never be afraid to show the world who you are.